what do you think about surrogate mother for the baby and the surrogate mother herself? Thank you, from Kim.
It's a lot of confusion is being developed by that, you know. So it's a lot of confusion. Even the, what do you call this, the test tube baby, what do you call it? I always forget the word, you know. In
Vial? No.
No. Sorry, intro something. Yeah. I always forget that word anyway. Intro something, whatever. So it's creating a lot of confusion. And I have personally met with children like that. And it's a lot of confusion. And then, of course, there is a sperm bank also now, that if the sperm count of the man is not right, then you can have somebody else's sperm. And perhaps this happened during the Mahabharata time also, with Pandava and all that. So a lot of confusion happens. I would still think that natural birth should be natural birth.
Either natural birth or, I mean,
Adopt.
if someone still wants to have children.
Adopt. If you want a child, adopt a child. I mean, instead of surrogate, what is the term?
Mother.
Surrogate mother or something. Adopt a child, because then at least you know that there are no strings attached. This mother who is giving birth is a biological mother. You cannot say she's not a biological mother. So that creates a lot of confusion.
Speaking of adoption, I mean, it is good. It is a very noble thing to do, adoption. But what happens if, you know, I mean, we're talking about karmas, right? And then also about where children are not clean slates, and we don't know who are the genetics that they get from the parents. And also we don't know of course we can't know people's past lives, but there is always a risk in adopting a child also.
Yes, you know, I'm you know, few days back I was listening to this and I got really worried, because a small kid was 5-6 years old, you know, and he's given something and he recognizes the smell as a smell of arak. You heard this, I heard this, a lot of people heard this, but I got very, very much concerned. A 5-6 years old kid who can identify the smell of arak is a bad news.
Arak, by the way, is alcohol made from rice wine.
Yeah, whatever wine, but you know, he can recognize that smell, and that smell, in spite of him being adopted by somebody else for the last 1 year or so, the smell is already there, registered in his mind.
Yeah.
And even a year later, this 5-6 years old kid can recognize that smell. And can
so there is a tendency.
Yeah.
So there is a tendency.
There's a tendency. So this is bad news. I mean, people were laughing at it. Oh, he can recognize the smell. But for me, it was a bad news.
It is the same thing. Like, I think, you said there was this video. That I think you sent it to me. A video of a baby, and then when he was presented, this little baby was presented with a bottle milk, and then he was like frowning. But then when he was presented by a whiskey bottle, and he started to shine, you know, and then and the parents were like joking around, teasing him. Enjoying it. It was funny, but actually it is not funny. It is actually quite scary.
It is not funny at all. It is not. So you can see the conditioning is so strong. And for this child to be born in a family where maybe the father is an alcoholic or something, you know, so he gets all these impressions. He's carrying some impressions from his past life too, you know. And this kind of kid, you really have to be very, very careful in his upbringing. If somebody has adopted this kid, has to be very careful with his upbringing so that it doesn't continue with that kind of trait.
Yeah, that is true. So basically, if the parents or who are adopting, or the parents who are like adopting the child will have to be more careful about that.
Yes, in Javanese we have this. There's this wisdom. I always quote, bibit bebet bobot.
Yeah.
What is the
seed?
Seed. What is the seed? How does he behave? You know, all these things are, and how much does he weigh? What are the values imbibed upon his mind? We have to be careful with all this. You know, one person can affect somebody. Somebody has been doing a lot of sadhana for 15, 16 years, 17 years, and he meets one person just for a few months. He can be affected, totally different, you know. He can change different, become a different person altogether.
That is possible.
It is possible. It is possible.
Oh, the word you were looking for is in vitro.
In vitro, yes.
Yes, thank you everyone who has.
And you know, I was reading very interestingly. I was reading about somebody who has got this bone marrow transplant. You know, now I don't know. I still have to check on this, but it is. I read this in the book, and the book must be researched. But I didn't really know about this. That somebody who has got a bone marrow transplant will have 2 DNA sets.
Yes. Wow.
2
strains. So that's confusing.
So, you know, the person who has given him this, who has become a donor of the bone marrow, he's carrying that. He's carrying that also. And then there is a conflict in his body. The outer layer of his body is carrying one DNA. The inner one is another DNA. I still have to check on that. If there's a doctor here, a hepatologist here, oncologist here, they will know about this more. But I'm reading about this, and this was a revelation to me.
But this is interesting because if we talk about all the organs have their own intelligence.
True.
And they have their own mind to
True.
it, right? So if anyone who is receiving any donor as an organ, that means there is some part left. I mean, the mind left, or what do you call it? The fractions of the mind of the person who used to have that organ will be integrated in that person who received the donor.
True. Now the conflict will still be there unless, you know, when I was sick and I was getting transfusion every month, and I was in a yoga institution in India. They made sure that I was being given blood from one of them. They will never allow me to have blood from the Red Cross like that. You know, they would find somebody who is a meditator, a yoga practitioner, and they would make sure I get the blood from them. And I was not really, very much interested in the subject. I was not in my mind. I didn't have enough oxygen in my brain. But now when I think about it, yes. And when you're getting bone marrow transplant, bone marrow is the factory of the blood. It's creating blood.
Yes.
So bone marrow is very important. The blood is being, channeled through your whole body. So can you imagine you're carrying 2 DNA sets in your body?